So what is a ribbon controller? Well, as you can see, it literally is a ribbon that controls things, and most people typically think of it as controlling pitch, but it really can do so much more. And it's important to understand that it was a big part of early synthesis. Keyboards weren't attached to synthesizers in the way that they automatically are today. And so there were so many other things. There were drum controllers, and there were theremin controllers, and you could use microphones. You could even use light in a photovoltaic cell. Keyboards were just something that kind of ended up stuck on this thing. But I'm really glad to see that the ribbon has come back. One of its most famous uses, of course, was the Yamaha CS80 that had the beautiful ribbon. And then, of course, there's the Arturia Polybrute that has the gorgeous ribbon that looks like it's part of the wood. It's really beautiful. Definitely watch that video if you haven't seen it. I'll put a link underneath. There's the Kurzweil line with the K2700, and then it's an option for the PC keyboards, the PC3, PC4. And there have been shorter ribbons on things. If you have a keyboard where they're trying to seriously limit the height, they might put ribbons instead of pitch and mod wheels, like on the KeyStep Pro. But a nice long ribbon is a very beautiful musical thing. And like I said initially, people think of it as being used for pitch, but it can be used for so much more because it is just a controller. So I'm going to start with an init. By the way, I'm using the gorgeous ASM Hydrasynth Deluxe. It's got a nice 4-octave ribbon. It's also on the regular Hydrasynth as well. And if I move the ribbon, it works in a pitch bend kind of way because that is a standard default. And for measuring, you can use the keys underneath it when you're in the pitch bend mode. And for alignment, you can just look down at the keys below it because in pitch bend mode, it's just set up to match the keys. So but you can do other modes as well. So first thing I'm going to do is go to the ribbon mode, and I can see that it's in pitch bend mode. And there is one feature that's very cool. If you turn lock on, then whatever choice you make here is globally added to all your other patches. I'm going to leave that off for now. And instead of pitch bend mode, I'm going to go to mod only. That means that it's no longer connected to the pitch. It's just a modulation controller that can be assigned anywhere in the modulation matrix. If you haven't already seen it, watch my recent video on modulation matrices, and you can see how to do that. And so we go into the modulation matrix, and I'm going to assign. I can just hit the ribbon button. It'll jump to ribbon. And there's several choices. There's ribbon absolute plus, and ribbon relative. And these choices are common for most of the keyboards that do have ribbons. And what it's saying is when you touch the ribbon, you are exactly going to the value that that ribbon has right there. So that's really good if you want to finger tap notes, things like that. So I'm going to start with that. And I'm going to go down and I'm going to set it to be all of the oscillators. And then I'm setting it to pitch, and now I'll have an amount here. Okay, so now I know that if I move this, I'm going to move a whole octave up. And because I'm in absolute, it means anywhere I touch, I'm going to jump right to that value. And so that's good if you're just trying to play a melody and you want to jump notes. And then there's absolute, ribbon absolute plus, and this only adds to the value. Previously, anything below the middle went down and anything above it went up. Now, I can only add to it. And by changing the width, in other words, how much this goes, I can actually be very, very fine. Okay, so I'm going to do just a little bit. Now I'm going to micro tune this thing. And then the third choice is ribbon relative. Now this one's really interesting. Wherever you put your finger down is the new 0, and when you go to the left you're going down, and when you go to the right you're going up. The beauty of that is you don't have to look down like at this arrow to make sure that you're exactly landing on the 0 spot. Wherever you put your finger is the new 0. So if I have a note and it goes down, if I put my finger here, that's the 0. And when you're in the pitch bend mode, that's an important thing because you want to be able to just hold some chord and then just touch without worrying about where you are. And when it's in that mode, you can be strategic by knowing whether you want to go up a lot or if you want to go down a lot at any given moment. So if you know you want to do a very, very long dive, you always start up high. And because we're in relative mode, you're going to start at 0, but then you have all this negative travel. Or conversely, if you know you want to go much, much higher than where you're starting, you're going to start the ribbon on the far left side. So here's a new chord. But no matter where you put your finger, that's the 0. If you're going to go equally up and down, you can start somewhere in the middle. Okay, but that's just the start of it. Now we go back to the mod only mode, and what that does is it keeps it from going to pitch. But you could add it back in the mod matrix if you wanted. So we're gonna go back here, and I've got my. But let's say we wanted to do something different. So in this case, I'm going to go, instead of all oscillators, I'm going to go to my filter. And I'm going to make my filter cutoff be affected. And so first I'm going to go and close my filter. Let me get out of here. Go to my filter. Okay, so now I go back to my mod page and I'm going to play a note, and you're going to see that I can now move the filter with the ribbon. And even though I have a completely initialized patch, just adding a little bit of ping pong to that will do some amazing things here. We'll do that real quick. So there's a case where I really want to just put my finger down and be able to sweep. But if I go back and change my source to ribbon absolute, now I can just stab around and get different filter settings. Another setting that's really important is the hold setting. So what that says is after you let go of the ribbon, it's going to stay at the value you left it at. And that's super handy for mostly for filter, but it's also really handy for pitches if you're trying to like get into some weird tuning and then let go and then stay there and work at that and then be able to move it. I'll start with filter. And this would be really useful, like if you had an arpeggiation going on. have it go to anything. It could be volume, it could be vibrato, it could be vibrato speed, it could be literally anything that you can normally send any controller to, you can send it to that. And the last mode that's really useful is the Theremin mode, and that lets you start a note just by touching the ribbon. And you can do different key spans, so here's only 2 octaves. Or you can do really wide ones, here's 6 octaves. Now, of course, with 6 octaves, it's much harder to stay in tune because the resolution is not as great. But they've given another feature called quantize, and now as I move the ribbon, it's almost as if my ribbon is going into an auto tune. And that's kind of also a glissando, like you might have a glissando glide that does that through the chromatic steps. And speaking of glide, they even give you a glide if you want your motion to be even smoother than you're doing it. You can add glide, and now it's going to drag. But it gives it that nice floaty feeling. And then you've got this mod wheel. And what they're doing is simulating the other antenna for volume, so I can use the mod wheel to bring something in. And like all the other modes, if you really like this mode, you can lock it, and then when I get out and go to other patches, it's going to do the same mode. So now I'm going to just start playing a bunch of patches and play with the ribbon in various ways. Well, as you can see, the ribbon controller is definitely a great addition to all your musical styles. If you have any further questions about the ASM Hydrasynth or the Hydrasynth Deluxe, please contact your Sweetwater sales engineer. My name is Daniel Fisher. Thank you very much for watching.